Hello Silver friends, this is Jolie from Quicksilver Hair, and today I'm going to answer the question, does your curl pattern change when you ditch the dye? The answer straight off the bat is yes. It can, but not always. So let's talk about it. First, let's talk about dye. When you're dyeing your hair, you're damaging your hair. There's no way around this. In order for the dye to penetrate the hair strand and deposit color, it has to damage the hair strand. There is no non-damaging color. From bleach to permanent dye to semi-permanent and to demi-permanent colors, they all damage your hair. Now, there are some temporary colors like what you find in tinted shampoos and like overtone and products like that that are meant to only deposit on the exterior of the hair strand, and they just kind of temporarily stain it, and after you've washed it a few times that stain goes away. Those are not the colors I'm talking about. I'm talking about, salon quality or box dyes that are meant to change the color of your hair. So even semi-permanent changes your hair because it has to deposit that color for so many weeks, but because it has to open the cuticle and drive that color in, it's still going to damage the hair to some degree. There are degrees of damage. So there is extreme damage like bleaching, and there is mild damage like, semi-permanent color. What most people don't realize is that damage can determine curl pattern or not. So some people notice that with dye, their hair was curlier. That was the case for me. When I dyed my hair a dark red and it was a permanent dye, my hair was curly and happy. When I ditched the dye, things changed. I noticed when I highlighted my hair, the change was significantly different than permanent dark dye, in that the highlighted pieces of hair that had been pulled through the cap became little frizzy strands. They separated out from my normal curl clumps, and it was like a curl and frizz and a curl and frizz. So I quickly realized that highlighting was not for me. It was not something I wanted to do to my hair because it just created too many variables on one head of hair, and I already have enough variables on one head of hair, so I didn't want to add another. But what many people notice is that their curly hair actually likes dye. Some people will notice that when they ditch the dye, their hair will get curlier because their curls didn't like the damage. The other side of curl pattern comes from internal influence, and for women, this is highly dictated by hormones. So puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and then illnesses like cancer, thyroid problems, and treatments for those like chemotherapy will also alter your hair pattern. So there's other things at play that can be happening simultaneously when you ditch the dye. For many of us, we are ditching the dye around perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So we may have had a change occurring with our hormone changes that we may not have noticed with the dye until we ditched the dye. One thing, if you still have dye on your hair and you're not sure what your curl pattern is going to be when you ditch the dye, if you are around menopause, look at your pictures before puberty. Look at what your hair looked like when you were a kid. Now, this is going to be dependent on how your parents or you styled your hair at that time. You may not have noticed. I didn't notice until I pulled out a picture just a couple of years ago of me, and I was about 3 years old, and my hair had this C-shaped bend to it. I had never noticed that in any of my pictures before puberty. I never noticed that I actually had a soft C wave. What that told me was that my hair has always had a propensity to bend, right? I was never a completely straight-haired person. Now, I do have different textures all over my hair because I have straight hair, 2A hair, 2B hair, 2C hair, 3A hair. It's all in there. It's all mixed in. But what I've learned as I've gone through this journey of ditching the dye and menopause is that it's really about embracing what your hair needs and how you apply those products. So I've done a video recently where I walk you through a shampoo day, a shampoo and conditioner day, a shampoo, conditioner, and leave-in day, etc. And I think it's a very valuable video to show you that maybe you've been just shampooing your hair, or maybe you've just been shampooing and conditioning it. If you've ditched the dye and you find that your hair is frizzy and you're not sure what to do with it, take a look at that video. Start looking at adding moisture into your hair in multiple places in your routine and see if it helps mitigate the frizz. And you might find out that it helps bring on the wave or curl or whatever pattern it is that your hair is trying to live in. Don't be afraid of what your hair texture might be if you ditch the dye. There is no way you're going to know what it's going to be until you get there. I certainly would not have expected my hair to be finer, silkier, wavier. Those were not things that I expected. I don't know what I expected exactly, but this head of hair wasn't what I thought I was going to get. And I love it. I am very happy with what I ended up with. Now, did I have to learn a little differently how to deal with my hair? Yes. But in that journey, I've learned so much. And of course, I've been able to bring it all to you via the blog and now YouTube. And it's been kind of fun. I've learned things that I never knew about hair. But I also learned how to make my hair look and feel the way I want it to look and feel. There are teachers out there, there are classes out there, there are different methods of application. There are so many ways to learn how to deal with your hair. You don't have to be overwhelmed with it, and you don't have to be burdened by it. It's just a matter of learning a new routine, right? When you were coloring your hair, you still had a routine. You were coloring it, you were treating it with color safe products, you were probably using heat safe products, you probably were making sure that you had a specific towel so that you didn't ruin it with dye, you were probably making sure that you were scheduling appointments to meet certain special events so that your hair wasn't showing its roots. You know, there's things that you were doing with dye that were effort that you eventually learned as you went along. It's the same thing when you ditch the dye. There's some effort that you're going to have to put in to learn how to deal with your curls or your waves, or maybe it's more curly or less curly, or more wavy or less wavy, whatever the texture change is. But once you learn it, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how much you actually love your hair. That was really the point of this video, was to not be discouraged by the possibility that it's going to change. The fact of the matter is, it's going to change regardless of whether you ditch the dye or not. It's probably already changed several times in your lifetime, especially if you had children. I know many people that experienced extreme curl changes during pregnancy and after pregnancy. So just think of it as an adventure, you know? Who knows what you're going to have when you get done, but it could be really, really glorious. So there are several methods of dealing with curly hair. I highly encourage you to explore YouTube, look at other channels that are talking about curly hair. Even if they dye their hair, you may find information that's helpful to you depending on what the porosity of your hair is and what the curl pattern of your hair is. So follow other people who have similar hair types. If you're following me, my hair type is 2A, 2B, 2C, and a little 3A. I have low porosity hair, I have fine hair, and I have thin to normal density hair. I don't really do a lot with heat with my hair, so I don't have really any heat damage. And I may have some environmental damage just because of the length of my hair. But for the most part, my hair is virgin hair. So if you're following me, that's kind of the skinny on my hair. But if you're following other curly girls, you know, listen to what their hair type is, learn what your hair type is, which I will link a post in the description box below about hair type. I also have a video on hair type. It's more complex than just the pattern of your hair. It also includes things like damage, density. It also includes, you know, lifestyle choices that you may be having that you may not realize could be damaging your hair. And, you know, those things all come into play. What I will say is learn to treat your silver hair no matter what hair type you have, no matter whether it's straight or 4C. Treat your silver hair delicately because it is more delicate. The cuticle is thinner, so it's going to respond differently than someone with pigmented hair. And you want to keep in mind that just because it works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I hope you found this video helpful today, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, I would highly encourage you to join my email list, and you can do so by opening the description box. There's a link there for my email list. That is the best way for me to notify you of news from the blog, news from my store, and news on YouTube. I hope to see you again next time, and until then, shine on.